Well,
Thank you for being here, Roel. It's great to have you.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I wanted to start with a small invocation with a little song. I really like singing in my work. So maybe we can all close our eyes and take a few deep breaths and just remember how much grace and beauty is surrounding us. You can just remember the love and the light of the sun, the moon and the stars, of the earth, and you just give thanks for all these blessings are coming towards you in this very moment. And if there's anything that you need, maybe some more peace, maybe some joy, anything that's going on within you, you can just open that place in your heart and just allow the beauty of life to enter your heart. So while I'll sing for a minute or so, just remember all these places in nature that have supported you. Trees, flowers, stones, the sea, whatever it may be. So just breathe in a few times into your heart, and we give thanks for this one day in this body, this day that has been giving us. We give thanks to the river of life that streams through our heart. And you can slowly open your eyes again.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you for that nice start.
Very welcome.
I would love for you to share some of your background in how you became involved with shamanism and how your journey started.
Yeah, so for me, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like I think we often, when we sort of are called to a path, it's sort of life has been preparing us. And so what happened for me is my parents got divorced when I was 6 months, and my father sort of wasn't in the picture. And then my mother died when I was 4. So my grandparents, they took me in their home. And I remember as a child, of course, I was longing for my mother, and I was looking for her in my dreams, and I was looking for her in the unseen. So through this life experience, I was searching, looking. And then later, because I was pretty wounded by these experiences, I got involved in drugs, and I really lost like balance within myself in my teens, and I came into this pretty dark cycle of life. But I was very interested in shamanic cultures from an early age. And so through books, I started getting really interested, especially when I read Michael Harner's book, The Way of the Shaman. And so I was 16 then, and I started practicing myself, but it didn't really work. And then soon after, I found my first teachers. And they were very involved in Celtic shamanism, which, you know, I'm from Belgium, which is our ancestry here, and working a lot with the land. So they took me in nature vigils and ceremonies, and slowly during a few years, I started healing my wounds and getting myself also out of this cycle of drug abuse. And so I was pretty called to really walk that path, because before I met my teachers, I was getting suicidal, and I was really feeling lost. And I always had this strong feeling that I didn't belong in this world. And I know more people struggle with this, but the world felt very hostile to me. And there were so many things that I didn't understand. And to be honest, I still don't understand, these wars and famine and all these things. It's so heartbreaking, and it still is to me. But when I found my teachers, they really helped me so much. They just guided me towards the spirits and helped me to stick with it, to do my work, to let go of my sadness, to basically become part of this world. And so this continued. I had the opportunity in my life to meet many teachers, and I love being a student. So I'm a student for life. I realize that I don't know much. There's so much to learn, but I was gifted a beautiful life with a lot of beautiful teachers that help me to live from the heart, because that's sort of the center of what I do. Is true shamanic work is really invoke the power of our heart. We all have very powerful hearts, and to me this is the medicine that's needed in this planet. And yeah, through my first teachers, this path unfolded. And I always loved journeying, um, and working with the spirits and learning. And I still, I do a lot of dream work. I do a lot of ceremony. I work with a lot of people in teaching. But what amazes me is that this path is just endless. You always learn, and that brings me a lot of joy. And it also helps me through the challenges of life, because, of course, when we start walking this path, the challenges keep coming, like in every other life. And so I have my challenges, of course, but I'm truly grateful that we are being given tools that we can use to navigate through life, and not only go through life when there's a struggle, but also just to grow as a human being and to become more compassionate, more kind, and also more powerful, like in our creations. I like to make art and do a lot of things for the community and help people. So reclaiming our power is part of that. And I don't mean power with like from an ego perspective, but more like our beauty. Like a tree is powerful, a flower is powerful, in that way. Because I see that a lot of people, including myself, struggle with it, to really let your light shine and to just have no issues with your own light. And so that's an ongoing journey for me. But I like to share with people and to do what I can to help others, because I'm very aware that my teachers, but also like other people, like my grandmother, if they wouldn't be in my life, I wouldn't probably not be here. I'm pretty sure of that.
Wow.
So yeah, people lift us up. And I think once you sort of find your ground again, it's nice if you can lift other people.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your background and the way you work.
Mm-hmm.
Since our focus today is on the ancestors realm,
Mhm.
Can you've got a unique way of working in that area. Can you tell us more about your relationship with the ancestral realm?
Yeah. So, you know, as I mentioned before, with the death of my mother, I sort of got in, you know, a very natural response to look for my ancestors in the dream world or in the spirit world. And so this only continued when I remember from my first journeys I did when I was, you know, 17, I was journeying and meeting ancestors. And when I talk about ancestors, I don't limit it to our bloodline. You know, I often met ancestral beings from other cultures, or, you know, different skin color, or, you know, to me, it doesn't matter. You know, ancestral help is ancestral help. And I remember my first journeys, I would meet these old beings and they would teach me things and they would show me a lot of symbols. My artwork is always filled with sigils and symbols because that's my reality. I have books with thousands of drawings of symbols,
Mm.
and I often don't know what they mean. But they sort of have a harmony and a wisdom behind them that I like. And even in my night dreams, I had a lot of contact with ancestral beings, and also in ceremony, in journeys. Um, and so, in a very organic way, I've always been connected with ancestral help. And one of the really crucial points for me, I was in England with one of my teachers, and we were doing a burial ritual where we spend the night in the earth, you know, in a hollow
Oh,
place under the earth. You dig a hole and you put boards on it and earth.
wow.
And I had preparing for that for a long time. I was 23, I think, maybe 22. It was before our daughter was born. And I remember being in the earth and I was singing, and I got these visions of faces of shamans, male, female, and they were singing with me the same song, and it kept going for hours, and I just kept singing, and I saw countless faces coming, and I could see this timeless quality of shamanism, like alleviation of suffering is at the core of shamanism, or at the core of healing practices with shamanism. It's like a desire from your heart to help others. And when I was singing this, I could see it in these eyes of these beings. There was a compassion that was the same in all of these eyes. And I understood that, you know, if we go back through time, we come to the same two beings. You know, we're just one human family, and we might have different colors or backgrounds, but that doesn't really matter that much. And one of my teachers, who now moved to Colombia, he at one point told me that it's a good goal in life to become a person that if a child looks in your eyes, this child only sees love. And this
Love
says,
that.
yeah, it's so beautiful. And, you know, I don't think I'm there. You know, there's a lot of moments that I'm like frustrated or whatever, but it became this guiding thing. And so to continue my story, there's this moment where I was doing a lot of inner work and I started having dreams about abuse. And I saw that this was part of the ancestral line. You know, abuse can be passed down, as we all know. And it was only in my dreams. It never got verified, but it became very intense. And so at this moment in time, I did a ritual. Like I was suffering because of these dreams. And I was very afraid because I was a young father and I don't know how to be a father. So I was getting afraid, like what if I pass down this pain that I feel, even not like if I wouldn't do physically anything, but even just on a spiritual plane, you know. And so I made this fire. We were living in a small house in the middle of the fields, and it was a very misty night. And in the Celtic tradition, we like mist, you know, it's a gate to the spirit world. So I'm standing there alone in the garden, and there's mist all over, and I'm crying because I just feel all this pain, and I just keep crying. And at one point, there's this the fire starts speaking to me, and it tells me, stand up, you know, be strong, look this in the eye. So I stand up, I look this in the eye, and at one point, I just by myself I call out to the ancestors. And I literally see in the mist, I see beings coming to me. And I was singing, and hundreds and thousands of human beings were standing in front of me. And I knew that they knew this pain that I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I had this instrument in my hand. And I was singing, and at one point I hold it up, and there was a light in my heart, and I like a torch, I would hold it up, and I said to my ancestors, this pain will not pass me, you know, it will not pass me, and I want to help as much as I can to lift this pain. And so in my vision of these ancestors being there, another ancestor had like a light in his or her hand and raised it, and then another one, and then another one, and another one. And it just started lighting this field.
Wow.
And that really, really changed my personal relationship to the ancestors. Because since then, I felt a deep healing within myself, but I also had experienced myself how we clear patterns, and that our birthright is to shine, you know, to come at peace. And so this only evolved, and I've had a great love for ancestral work, and through my ceremonies and shamanic work, I started meeting these shamanic healers that would help other people in my group, and that would work through me or sing through me. And so that became a reality by itself, which I totally adore and love. It's very compassionate reality. And what I want to add to this story is, I was doing an ancestral healing workshop at one point, and we had a beginning circle. So I passed around the stick, and people could share their intention. And so one person started, and then the other. And they were all talking about pain they inherited from the ancestors. And so one after the other and I was like, my heart started boiling. Like, so halfway the circle, I asked for a break, and I said, well, I really want you to breathe. I know Freud has told everyone that your parents are to blame for anything in your life, but I think we should restore our relationship with the ancestors to a relationship of gratitude and of joy, you know? And that shifted everything. The group sort of started breathing because it was getting heavy, like instantly, with all these stories. And I think that's sort of the core of what I'm trying to do is, we in Western society, which I'm part of, we don't actively shamanically honor the ancestors. And I think that's a good way to live, you know, not only your bloodline, but I honor all living beings that have lived, you know, with all their tears and all their searching and all their joy. And so I think that's a vital thing that I would like to share. is that there's so much help of the ancestral field. The ancestors know our struggles because they have lived themselves, and they're like, it's a bit different from, for example, an elk spirit who you sort of have to remind from time to time, well, I'm human, this is a different game. So that's what I like about the ancestor work, is that there's so much help of beings that know how it is to be a human being and to struggle, and to not know what to do with a relationship with your parents, or all these things of life. And so yeah, that's important. And yeah, that's, I think, the core of where I think we need to go as a Western society, is to restore a relationship of power with the ancestors that's honoring, and that's built on beauty. Yeah, so that's what comes to mind.
Wow, that was a great background story of the ancestral realm. I'd love to go back to that night in the misty garden, if I could ask a question from that. So you were really trying to not get the spiritual DNA, this epigenetics kind of thing, where we are experiencing the traumas of our ancestors, not to pass through into your new child, right?
Yes, yes. My daughter was already born, so, but patterns are being, like, I was raised by my grandparents, but I have patterns of my grandfather, even though he wasn't my father, of course, but we sort of mimic behavior. There's a lot of, things that aren't spoken, that are passed down. So there's so many levels in the ancestral work. But yeah, in that ritual, my only objective was to claim this pain or whatever, and decide, like, I will not pass this. I also believe that I'm not a victim of the ancestral line. I'm just not. I don't think that's a wise thing to think. I believe that as a soul, I have chosen this life, and whatever is on my plate is mine to chew on and to go through. And I've seen my share of searches, but that's something that I also think that's important when people start relating to the ancestors, is that we don't use them as a projection screen of our own pain, like, oh, I always feel isolated, but my mom feels the same way, so it's her fault. I don't think that. I think as a soul, we can recognize, okay, so apparently I'm in part of this family, which has the same patterns that I want to clear out as a soul. And so now these patterns, they become growing tools. And I think that's a more interesting way to walk through life, because then we don't give our power away. We can just claim what's there, and which can be very uncomfortable, but still that's how we can transcend. Otherwise we sort of get stuck, in a victim role, which is never a good idea.
Right. I think for a lot of people, when they even come to realize that there is this whole ancestral layer that they may not have known about before, it often explains those feelings that people didn't know. I mean, they feel it, but they don't know why.
Sure.
Not to blame, not to go back and blame anybody else or point the finger, but then also, like in my life, I own everything. I don't know what is ancestral.
Sure.
I kind of think maybe there isn't.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think
how do people know if they what is their own and what is coming through down the line, or even?
Well, I think, one of my fellow practitioner teachers, she said, well, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so that's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
It just all depends how you want to view this. Like, I'm not searching my ancestral line for errors. You know, there's certain patterns that I see myself that's in my ancestry, but they're mine as a soul. And
Yeah.
I just sort of believe, which is a belief system, you know, I cannot prove this, that as a soul, I just chose that family. Like, okay, you know, they have these things. So you're like a soul group coming together to clear stuff out. And then it doesn't have this really heavy, like some people, when they get involved in ancestral work, you know, it can be like very error focused, and I'm not that person. Like I really focus on the power and the beauty, which doesn't mean that, you know, we do not heal things. And you know, when I work with ancestral help, I always bring it back to my ancestors, so there may be peace for all of them. Like every ceremony I do, I pray for the ancestors and for future generations, so that all the benefits from the ceremony may go through time and help everyone. And this creates a beautiful energy of blessing.
Right.
And it attracts those energies of blessing. Like everything is, it's a game of frequency, right? Or consciousness. And so as we start blessing more and more when we do practice, you know, this is also done in Tibetan Buddhism. At the end of your ritual or meditation, you dedicate the merits to all living beings. And that's what I do with all my practices. Like even when I sing a short song, at the end, I'll just let it radiate through all living beings, because that's just a good system. When I'm feeling, you know, down or crappy, you know, I know people are praying for me. So it's a good system. It feeds the web with luminous energy. And I think that's a good way to work. And that's what I prefer personally. And if then things are being visible, like let's say, like I had struggles with social anxiety. So I was working around that. And let's say in a journey, I would see that it was also part of my ancestral line. I can now, if I start working on this pattern, I can now send it through time to the first ancestor that experienced this. And this is a very classical way of working with ancestral healing. But my personal belief is that everything that I experience is mine. I just, you know, otherwise it gets like super complicated, and I think life is complicated by itself. So I'm trying to simplify things.
Right.
I might be wrong with that approach, you know, according to another viewpoint, which is fine. You know, we just all try to navigate, I guess.
I really believe there's no right or wrong in this world. It's certainly a land of contrast, but who's to say what's right?
Sure.
I want to add one more idea for any viewers who are wondering more ways, all the ways that we can honor the ancestors in our world, because I spent some years living with Native Americans, and we always put out the spirit plate when you're eating. Just, you know, a tiny little plate with sampling of everything. And it's not that the spirits are going to eat that food. You know, it's the energy. It's energy in the food. And it's just another idea of something we can do to integrate into our lives to bring that ancestral awareness piece.
Yes, yes, very much so. And, you know, like last month, my grandmother died. And so she she was my spiritual mother, but she was also my spiritual teacher. She was a very wise soul and a very beautiful being. And she literally walked with me through the darkest years of my life.
Wow.
And so life can prepare us. Like 2 years ago, my father died, and I had contact with my father, but it was always, you know, he had his struggles, and it was a difficult situation. But when he died, I became aware that my grandmother was my last living ancestor. And like I love my grandmother like so much. So whenever I would go there and I would leave, I was aware like this could have been the last time. So often I was crying on my way back, and I would start getting dreams after my father died in which my grandmother died. And so life was preparing me. And she would often say that like, someday I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna stay forever. She was, she died when she was 90 or 80, 89.
But you must be able to still talk with her in the spirit world now too. I
Sure,
mean,
sure.
you must miss her terribly.
Yeah, sure. And so what happened is that coming more closer to her transition, I really felt that I should go more visits, to do more visits. And we had like such great visits, and like everything was said. And she loved my talks on shamanism, and she loved my reality. She would join me to in sound healings and rituals. She did all the crazy stuff. But life sort of prepared me, and then suddenly she died. And my aunt, she called me, and of course this was very, I started crying. I went to see her body, and then we had like a week to prepare the funeral. And I went to visit her body every day, just for myself, to honor her, to cry, to say, to deal with my own feelings. And then as days progressed, there was this huge peace coming into my heart. And we had a most amazing funeral, and I did a meditation with everyone there at the end, and we made this bridge of light to the other side, which is an image that she loved. She said like, yeah, that's a good thing to do. So to honor her spirit and to send her off. And now this last ancestor died, and I really feel that it sort of shifts the energy for me, because now I'm like first in line in my bloodline.
Okay.
And it brings a sort of peace and also deep connection. But what I wanted to add is how I work with the ancestors. Like with my father, I was there when he died. I stayed with him the last 4 days. I didn't leave his room apart from going to the toilet. And I was there with his last breath, and we had this pact, like, okay, you brought me here, I will bring you there. And he said, yeah, you can do that, so do that. So that was a beautiful experience for me to be able to do that for him, and also for myself. It was very good for my heart. But after he died, I always had the feeling like I should leave him, like I'm not contacting him. And I have the same with my grandmother. Like I really feel that when a soul starts journeying to the other side, it's their sacred time. And of course, I can burn a candle for their journey, but I'm not asking them to be here for me. And that gives a very powerful connection to the ancestral field, because it opens up and it becomes bigger than our bloodline. And that's what I like. I work with ancestral spirits, healing spirits that are not of my color, but they sing with me. They do healing work, and I love them. And so now, for example, with my grandmother, of course, I think of her, but I'm not asking her. I do have a lot of dreams where she's part of at night. And same with with my father. I never contacted him, but then at one point I was drumming for a journey in a group, and I just felt him behind me, and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I'm okay. And then he was gone. And that's enough for me. Yeah. And maybe later down the road we'll have more contact. I had the same with my grandfather. He died. I didn't hear him for years, but then he started coming. Like in difficult moments, I just could feel him, and he was helping me and giving me advice. often very technical advice, because he was good with technical stuff, and now I was a father, you know, I don't know what to do. I have no one to go to ask for
like
help.
that.
And he was like, well, try this, you know, to get this engine going and all these things. So it's pretty funny. But that's something, I don't know how you feel about it, but I sort of, when somebody has died, I sort of really honor that sacred journey. And I burn candles, you know, sing songs, but it's more to bless their journey, because sometimes I feel people can hold on to a soul, and that's something to be mindful. And of course, when we're really grieving, like I feel good about the death of my grandmother. Like when the ceremony was done, I just felt joy, and that has been like 5 or 6 weeks now, and I still feel joy. And sometimes I really think like, oh, I'm gonna miss her, and you know, I might have a tear, but that's of gratitude. But I'm not like her. Her work was done, and now she's going to another great adventure. And I wanted to mention that because this is something like in our Western culture, like how do we do this? Going like, how do we live with death, with
And not
dying,
here.
with yeah, funerals, like all these things are so crucial and
Yeah.
so vital. And so this is something that's really dear to my heart, probably because of my own life story, but I also really like being with people that are in the last stages of their life. It resonates with me. I feel very comfortable with them, and I just know that this is just a place where love is needed, and where, you know, if somebody sits with you in silence, it's good, you know, it's beautiful. And so that's something that is very interwoven with my work with ancestors, is the place of the heart. And I think that's, for me, that's one of the most important teachings of death, is that, you know, when death comes to visit, you know, the heart remains. And that's, you know, that's what's important in that time. And it can help us to keep living that in our, you know, in the rest of our life, to become more heart-centered.
I love that. It's beautiful. And I love being in this conversation about the ancestral realm. I love working with the ancestors too. But when we were speaking last time, there's another, it's not always in the past, but you spoke about the future and seeking guidance in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be part of our experience today. So I thought
Yeah,
you could lead us into that.
sure. So there's two things I want to mention about working with the descendants. One is more of a framework that I came in my life through the work of Ernest Holmes, who was a New Thought teacher. And I really love Ernest Holmes. You know, I love the science of mind philosophy, and to bring this idea of unity and oneness into the shamanic work has shifted everything for me. Um, he talks about this idea of involution, and you have evolution but involution. And the idea of involution is that if, for example, like the oak is within the acorn, do you call it like that?
Acorn.
Yeah, so the oak is already within there,
Yes.
you know, there's a blueprint. And so when I was contemplating this and I observed nature, like when a tree is standing, it's maybe a young tree, you know, I'm a young tree and I'm standing like this. The tree is sort of growing into this larger blueprint of what it will become. And it is as if it is being pulled by this blueprint. Like if you see these time-lapse videos of nature growing, it looks like something is pulling it up. It's very strange. And
Right.
so in the Western mind, we often think we relate ourselves to our past. Like, you know, I'm this person because this and this and this happened to me, which is fine. But I sort of started thinking, I'm this person now because I'm being pulled forward by the future, my future self. And I started relating to my future self. And of course, I have the intention of being the most beautiful, compassionate being that I can be, you know. That's a good way to walk through life. And so I started working with this future version of myself, which is very interesting. And in the same way, I started looking at the descendants, the future generations. I believe, and I'm totally convinced by this, that there's so many people receiving inspiration for technical innovations, for, you know, how to clear, you know, dirty water, you know, all these things. I really believe that the descendants are whispering in our ears, like, you know, this is a good idea, pursue this one. Because, you know, we're in a time of shifting, and I think we should leave the caterpillar. We're in this cocoon, and caterpillar is gone now. We should focus on the butterfly, you know.
That's great. I
Yeah,
love that one.
the caterpillar is mush. it's done. And so a lot of these patterns, this is a time of innovation. And so ancestral help can really be help, you know, energetic help. But working with the descendants, in my personal experience, is more a path of guidance. Like, I want to do whatever I can to make a world that's beautiful for them to come. And when I do that with this intention, you can get really beautiful perspective from working with the descendants. And that's when we discussed this interview and we talked about the ancestors, that sort of afterwards that came in, like, let's bring in the descendants too, because to me they work together. You have the wisdom of the ancestors and the power and the, you know, the healing energy, but then you have this clear guidance that you can get from the descendants who can help us more to live in alignment with a future vision. So for very personal guidance, I might prefer working with ancestors. You know, I have this issue with my mortgage, you know, or I need a new car, I don't have the funds for it, or, you know, all this human stuff. I probably will work more with the ancestors for guidance, which they are perfect for because they know how it is. But then working with the energy of the descendants really brings in this very bright energy and this bright light that is focused on a vision of a beautiful world. And I truly believe this idea of involution, that within my heart there's a blueprint of the best that I can be, the most beautiful that I can be. You know, I know words of best and beautiful might not be the best words, but I'm just trying to convey a message.
It works. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and that we're unfolding. And so my idea of reality has been shifted, and so I believe that I'm being pulled forward to the future. And this idea gives me a lot of joy, because then it doesn't feel like I have all these things from the past. It's just like, of course they're there, but they help me to look like, who can I become? You know, how, my daughter is 14, you know, how can I can be a great dad for her. You know, she's figuring out who she is, and it's like a big world and all these things are happening. How can I be a great supportive dad that just honors her spirit, and she can, you know, unfold as she wants to unfold? And so these are things that I really am passionate about, because it
thank you
brings
for
this
sharing
beautiful
that.
light. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting close to the end of our time, so I wanted to be sure that we can go a little bit over, but to be mindful of the time for the
Sure.
viewers, maybe we should work the way into the exercise.
Sure. Do you want me explain the exercise
Yeah,
before
just a
we do
little
it?
bit about how people can work and receive guidance from the future ancestors.
Yeah, so what I want to do is a guided meditation. So I will guide everyone through it, where we go to a place, a meeting place, which is separate from time, where we meet an ancestral helper. And what's important is when we do this work, and or when people start continuing this work, is you don't ask guidance from any dead person. You know, you ask guidance from an ancestral helping spirit. This is a being that is in this place of being a helping spirit, because maybe somebody died in the family, but they're still working through their stuff. So they're not already separate from their previous incarnation. So they're not the best ancestral helping spirits. So I wanted to bring that, because if people start working at home, you always ask help from ancestral helping spirits. And I like to, you know, use language to narrow it down. So we're going to ask help from those ancestral helping spirits that can help us now the best in becoming the most, you know, to live our life to the fullest, to live from our full potential. I think that's a good framing.
Excellent.
And so we'll meet an ancestral helping spirit there, and we'll also meet a descendant, a representative of the future generations, who can also help by giving us guidance on how to live our full potential, our true purpose. And so that's the focus of the meditation. Sorry?
So that blueprint can blossom out.
Yeah. And
guide us.
so what I like to do is I like to guide it with words. So we can all close our eyes and we'll just go into the journey. I'm pretty straightforward. So, you know, I make it pretty simple because that's what I like to do. And then when we are meeting these beings, I will start singing, and I'll just sing ancestral healing songs. And they're dedicated to both the ancestral helping spirits to give thanks for all their beauty and help, but they're also dedicated, this song is also dedicated to the future generations for all their beauty and help. So it's to both of them. And then people can really have their own journey. I think, you know, the great gift of shamanism is like your way is the right way. Like I have my journeys to my spirits, and that's how I get the true information. And when you do it for yourself, you get your true information. And so I think that's the beauty of shamanism.
Yeah. Okay, so do we shut our eyes?
Yes, we can go for it. So let's close our eyes and maybe take in a few deep breaths. You know, we've been talking a lot, so just let that go. And as always, as you focus on your heart, you just remember all these places in nature that have ever supported you. And just go through your memories. Maybe a tree from when you were a child. Maybe a lake where you visit from time to time. And then you envision that life force, the river of life, is flowing through these places through a thread of white light into your body. And you just accept this gift, and you remember more places. Maybe the sea or the ocean, maybe the lavender flower, whatever it may be for you. And these are all threads of white light, of pure life energy that are entering your energy body right now, and you give thanks. And so hundreds of white threads of light are entering your energy body and are filling it completely with the beautiful life force, with pure spirit, with pure grace. And you can envision this golden sun shining above your head, like maybe an arm's length above your head. And this golden light is going all around your energy body, your aura. And so you are now in this beautiful, radiant, golden egg of light. And from all directions, the beauty of life is streaming and filling you up. And then we focus on our hearts and we give thanks to the ancestral realm. We give thanks to those ancestors that will meet with us today. Ancestral helping spirits that can now help us the best in living our true purpose. We honor their beauty and their grace, their compassion and their love. And we also give thanks to the future generations, knowing fully that we are the ancestors for them. And feeding this light, letting this light in our heart grow, and letting this light shine as an ancestor for the future generations. And we ask a representative of the future generations to come and meet us, to give us guidance on how we can live our true purpose, whatever that may be. And you just focus this intention in your heart. And then you see a field appearing, and you are standing in this field, and there's beauty of flowers, of rocks, and you breathe in the energy of Mother Earth, of Mother Nature, and you give thanks. And as you breathe in, a beautiful mist appears, and you follow your heart, and a path of light appears in the mist. And you are now walking on this path to the place where this ancestral helping spirit and the representative of future generations are awaiting you to give you guidance and help on how to live your full potential, your true purpose. And so you walk through this mist, and a light appears in the distance. And as you come closer, you can see an ancestral helping spirit is awaiting next to this beautiful light. And as you enter this space, you feel the compassion of this being. And this ancestral helping spirit looks you in the eyes and places a hand on your shoulder and gives you the blessing of love. And then a representative of the descendants appears, and you can see this pure light in these eyes. And you feel how your love for this being is ancestral. It runs through time. It's a river that is running through our hearts. And so you can breathe in and welcome these two beings in your heart with their wisdom and their help. And so I will sing a song, and in this time you can just ask for guidance, ask for help, and receive the gifts that want to come forward from this meeting. So if there's anything you want to ask in this visit, now is a good time to ask. If there's something else, some advice you want, I'll sing for another minute for you. So now you can breathe in into your heart and give thanks to these two beings that came to help you, to guide you. You just focus on your heart and really feel gratitude for the river of life is flowing through you, and this is your life. And you give your gratitude to this ancestral helping spirit, to this descendant. And when you are ready, you can say goodbye, knowing that you can always return. And you bless both of them with the love of your heart and with the prayer that peace and love may be with them and all their relations. And then you breathe in and you turn around and see this beautiful path of light through the mist. And with these gifts in your heart, you walk on this path through the mist until you come to the place where your journey started, this beautiful field filled with flowers. And then before you open your eyes, just take a moment to feel your heart and feel your sincerity to be a being of compassion and of beauty. And then you feel this light in your heart and you imagine how it emanates in all directions and it flows through the web of life to all living beings. And so together we dedicate the light that has been received to the benefit of all living beings, so that all may be happy, so that all may be free. And then you breathe in again and just take a moment for yourself and feel your body and the energy in your body and the light that is here. And then remember all these places in nature that are supporting you, and you give thanks. And so together we give thanks for this journey, for this meeting with the ancestral helping spirit and the descendant. We give thanks to life itself, to the great spirit of life, to the great river of life. We give thanks for the never-ending river of beauty and grace that is here with us and that is longing to flow through us in our every thought, our every word, and our every action. And with this, we breathe in, we give thanks. May this be a blessing for all. And then again, you can breathe in and slowly open your eyes again when you're ready. And what I really like to do is, when you open your eyes, keep feeling your body. Just feel this light that is within, so we can become more luminous each time we do these things.
Wow. Roel, thank you. I speak for everyone watching, I'm sure. Thank you very deeply for that beautiful experience.
Thank you so much.
It was really different for me. You know, I do a lot of journeying, um, and there's another one I do into the future, but this one really took me in a very unique, interesting direction.
Oh, wow. You want to
Yeah,
share?
sure. Just quickly, it's I just, you know, when you get in that place where you can feel you've stepped out,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately dropped down. It was kind of dizzying, even the way I just dropped into this other space. And then the ancestors were appearing in a totally different form. It was all lights
Mm-hmm.
and movement, very thin veils, because I could see some shadow areas, and then the thin, and it was a lot of like gold and yellow. I mean, beautiful yellow gold color. And then when that went on for some time, and I thought, well, you know, there's nothing specific that I'm receiving. I think they're just like filling me up with
Uh-huh.
what I need to move forward. And then when you took us to the asking the question part, you know, this would be a good time to ask for something that you do want help with. And the colors changed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then they turned like a muted violet. And I felt like because I had a specific um, thing area that to work with,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think some specific things were brought in. But I love this. It was totally different experience from the
Yeah.
other journeys.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. You know, I think this because you know, we wanted to present something that people can repeat. So this is a very good thing to repeat, and you can also just take parts of it. Like for example, the thing with in the beginning where you remember all the places in nature that have ever supported you, and you let it fill your energy body. That's something I don't do it daily, but nearly daily. And
Mm.
it just lights up your energy body in a powerful way. And you know, we have so much relations. You know, I'm in love with lavender, you know, with apple, with birch, you know, and there are allies. And this river of life is streaming anyway. Might as well become aware of it and let it fill us up. But I'm happy that the journey was beneficial to you.
Thank you. And the sound of your voice, the singing is really something very special. I know that's part of the gift that you're offering people. Would you like to let everybody know? We'll have the links on our website, of course, but what it is they can go and receive.
Yeah, sure. So I have a page where people can sign up if they want to. There's also an ancestral healing song that you can just play. You know, I'll leave the page there for eternity of the internet. And so that's a 9 minute and a half ancestral healing song, which is with 4 layers of singing.
And
Um,
everybody, that is super beautiful and really does some energy healing and that just listening to the song.
Yeah, so thank you. And so that will be there so you can play. And then I have, you know, if people want to know more, they can sign up for my newsletter. I only do a newsletter like a few times a year, and I'm not a busy email person. But I have download link for the ancestral healing song. I have 4 guided meditations, which are a bit older. I'm working on new ones, and I always send them out for free on my newsletter, so people can
Okay,
just people. I like to share that stuff.
that's a
And then
great.
there's artworks like
Oh,
desktop images and a screensaver with artworks that I made, and they're paintings made out of my journeys, you know, the things that I see or get from the spirits. So I think that's about it. Maybe I forgot something, but and the link is roelcrabbe.com/visionaries.
thank you. That's so generous. I think that's an excellent starting point for people. They have the music, the guided meditation, even imagery. Like the paintings behind you, right, are some of the symbols.
Yeah, yeah. Like actually, this blue one, that's sort of that was the first one that I made in a large painting. I got a dream where a bear, which is one of my allies, was standing in front of me and said, "Look," you know. And then she was holding, this painting appeared with this symbol, and she was like, "You have," because I was going to teach in Sweden, and this is 15 years ago, because Grit was pregnant of our child. I was getting a bit nervous about, because I never taught in English before, and I asked for help, and the bear told me, "Well, you have to draw or paint this one and take it to Sweden and hang it above the altar," which I did. And so that sort of got me into painting the visions, and I'm dedicating more and more time to making art, because you know, imagery can speak in ways that language cannot, and that's sort of, people feel what it brings, and it's hard to explain it, but it really calls to me to share that more.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Is there something else, anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to leave in closing?
That's a good question. I'm super happy with this talk, because about a month and a half ago, I was working with a group of practitioners that I'm training, and we did a journey to the descendants, and they asked me to talk more about them. And so this is a good opportunity for me to do, you know, I agreed with, you know, I made a commitment to do that. And they showed me a beautiful cover of a book that I'll write later down the road. And it was called You Ancestor. And so that's what I think I want to say, is that we are the ancestors of future generations, even though we might not have children ourselves, you know, in our bloodline. We are part of this ancestral field, and I truly honor, you know, people that are listening to this, or you know, are being part of your online summit. Those are people that are interested in their hearts, you know, in their connection with spirit, and I think that should always remain our central focus. That as a humanity, we become true friends of each other and of life and of the planet and of the animals and so forth. So this is our time to, you know, walk on the planet as beautiful ancestors of those to come. And I think that's something that I wanted to say as a final word.
Oh, that's absolutely gorgeous. Well, thank you so much. I really
No,
appreciate your time into this meeting with us and part of the series and this beautiful journey today.